like to speak this morning a little bit about innocence. When one is connected with the heart, this feeling of pure love, the feeling that is not bounded by anything, in the beginning it is felt in the chest, but when you fall into it, you feel that it is everywhere, totally unbounded, transcends all boundaries, and yet the feeling is the feeling of yourself. And in this feeling, when you are connected with it, you are present because this exists in the present. It is the feeling of your being. There is nowhere it is not. Nothing divides or fragments or alters it. And what appeared as separate and distinct all appears within it. There must be the falling away from the feeling of your being, the feeling of the heart, in order for things to appear separate and distinct. But when you are connected, everything is arising within this field of love and beauty. When you are in touch with this, when you have not fallen out of where you live, which is eternally now, which is the feeling of your heart, which is the feeling of your being, which is the feeling of totality, wholeness. Then the experience of separation vanishes. Then the one nectar becomes the taste. Then there is the direct revelation, there is nowhere, God is not. And it is all intertwined in my being. The feeling that I am separate evaporates. And in this, the flavor is the one hand that is guiding everything. And then all of a sudden, all of the players become a reflection of that love. No matter what is going on, because the source that is underlying all of it is tasted. The experience that I am separate, I am choosing, I am doing, vanishes, and it is replaced by this sense of total peace and wholeness and sweetness and fullness. In this, the movement of all of the characters becomes the same as the movement of the wind, the movement of the trees receiving the wind. There is this harmony. There is this unified life force that is guiding all of it, that you feel. And then there are these intermittent periods of being drawn into conditioned habits, where there is a falling away from the feeling of your heart, the feeling of your being, and immediately appears the experience of separation. And in that, the experience of doing and choosing seems so real. And then what occurs are the familiar conflicts, the familiar protective habits. And then this relative struggle becomes the reminder, and there is the possibility of just letting go and feeling what remains, feeling what has nothing to do with particulars, but is the essence of your own existence. The feeling of your heart. And then all of a sudden, all sense of separation vanishes again. The experience of being alone is gone. The experience of being separate is gone. All of the familiar burdens evaporate. When the body moves, it moves like the wind. There is no sense of separation with anything. And the life flows back and forth between these tastes. And what begins to become so clear is that the experience of separation, which leads to the conditioning of judgment, blame, control, all of these habitual patterns of mind, it is seen that this only appears when there is the falling away from the heart. That whatever appears is familiar and repetitive. And every time there is the simple reminding that the sense of separation is the suffering, and there is the willingness to let go of that which pulls you away from yourself. And there is just the falling into your being. And with it, the separation evaporates. And the sense of continuity and wholeness returns. The mind becomes still. The feeling of beauty returns again. Through these waves, there begins to be the recognition of the innocence that only appears to be other than innocent when you have fallen away from your heart. That it is all just being played. That it is all divine intervention. that every time there is the experience of separation because something has been latched onto, which has brought about the return of the experience of being separate, it is possible to be humble enough, instead of latching on with all of your intensity, just to let it go and to return to the nectar. What begins to become so clear is that all of this separate activity that is experienced when you fall away from yourself is all the divine offer to fall back into yourself. That every supposed issue that pulls the attention away, it is never new, it is always a repeat. It is never due to wrongdoing. It is just the repetition of the initial elements that caused forgetting. That there is no one to blame. It is all innocence. Even the sense of forgetting is all innocence. Even the latching onto is all innocence. That the absence of the feeling of God drenching everything only appears when you have fallen away from yourself. But it is only an appearance. When you are connected with yourself, it vanishes. That all of it is being carried by this kindness that eventually sees the innocence of everything. And the final thing where there is the discovery of innocence is the mind's tendency to blame and chastise what it calls myself. And seeing the innocence in that. It is only conditioned. It only appears when there is falling away from your existence, which is eternally now, the feeling of your heart, which is eternally now, the feeling of pure wholeness, which is eternally now. Eventually there is a taste of the beauty of all of it. For when you have not fallen away from yourself, what is driving the show is felt in the heart. And when this is the taste, no matter what is playing, the taste is the beauty. Even if it is bringing forth challenge for the character, for the conditioning. Being humbled enough to leave the separating opinions aside. Letting the judgments just be taken. Letting the nectar of the heart guide the action, in which the taste is that it is all carried. And what moves everything is the movement of love and connection, ease, wholeness. What were once seen as my flaws are recognized to be imprinted beliefs that have existed since early childhood. But it is all innocent. It all comes up to find your heart, which is underneath it, to see the innocence of everything. To see all there is the taste of the divine and the conditioned ways of responding out of the experience of being alone and separate. The more you taste it, the more what was experienced as the issues become the nectar that resolves everything that felt to be an issue. Just by letting go of the habit, letting go of the struggle, letting go and feeling your heart. Feeling what is now, feeling what is timeless. It is falling in love. It is falling in love with God. It is falling in love with the source of all that manifests. When there is the falling in love with all that manifests, there is the feeling of all that manifests. When there is the feeling of all that manifests, all sense of separation evaporates. And life is lived in the dance of pure love. There is nothing outside of the divine. If the mind is going to war and it is causing suffering, it is causing suffering because the belief is it is outside of God. It is outside of the source which is animating everything. When there is the feeling of what is present, there is the realization there is nothing outside. And then the nectar is the taste. just to drink the nectar. Just to drink in the beauty that is being offered. To let go of the habits that create the experience of separating you, and to drink in the grace, and to dance as a lover, free of all confines, free of all armoring, free of all suffering.